Imagine at the center of every galaxy, where light itself cannot escape, there is a heart beating. We often think of black holes as symbols of endings, of swallowing, of disappearance. But science tells a subtler story. Supermassive black holes do not merely pull matter into darkness. They release vast streams of gas and energy jets stretching thousands of light years like deep breaths cast into the endless void. It is these breaths that regulate the birth of stars. Without them, a galaxy might grow too quickly, exhaust its fuel, and become a kind of cosmic ghost filled with aging stars no longer capable of renewal. How strange that the darkest place can be the one that preserves balance for life. Perhaps this is not only true for galaxies. Within the human mind, there are dark regions as well, memories, unnamed fears. We avoid questions never spoken aloud. We often wish to push them away, as though light could only exist once darkness is erased. But Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Light does not arise from denying the dark. It comes from understanding that darkness, too, has a function. Like the black hole at a galaxy's core, the deepest part of us may be what steadies the rhythm of our inner life. Difficult experiences can slow us down. Sorrows can prevent recklessness. Silences can keep the soul from exploding beyond its limits. Think of those great jets again. They do not destroy the galaxy. They allow it to endure. Perhaps within you there are such jets as well, reactions, boundaries, scars that have taught you to live more slowly, more deeply. The universe does not erase its darkness. It integrates it. And tonight, as you lie here in the quiet of your room, you may not need to drive away every heavy thought. You may only need to recognize that even in your darkest place, there is still a heartbeat. Not loud, not seeking to prove anything, simply keeping you alive. Like a galaxy turning slowly around an invisible center. And in that silent motion, you may let yourself drift. There are deaths that unfold in silence. And there are deaths that set the entire universe ablaze. When a massive star begins to exhaust its fuel, it does not fade at once. It swells glowing red as if determined to burn one final time. In its core, atoms collide under unimaginable pressure and heat, fusing into ever heavier elements, from hydrogen into helium, from helium into carbon, then neon, oxygen, silicon. Until at last its heart becomes iron, and iron can burn no further. In that moment, everything collapses. Gravity, once held in balance by thermal pressure, takes command. The core contracts in a fraction of a second, and then a supernova erupts brighter than an entire galaxy. In that brief instant, elements heavier than iron are born. Gold, silver, uranium, atoms that will wander through space for millions, billions of years before becoming part of a planet, an ocean, your body. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff. We do not merely gaze at the stars. We are the descendants of their explosions." And sometimes, if a star is large enough, if its core spins fast enough, if its magnetic field is strong enough, that explosion becomes more than a supernova. It creates a gamma-ray burst, a focused beam of energy launched with a force beyond imagination. In a few fleeting seconds, it can release more energy than the sun will emit over 10 billion years. So violent, so almost impossible to conceive. Yet the universe does not regard it as tragedy. It is part of the act of creation. At the human level, we fear explosions. We fear collapse. We fear the moment when everything falls beyond our control. But when we look at the stars, we see something different. There are collapses that are necessary to forge the elements of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What stands in the way becomes the way. What seems like an ending becomes the opening of a path." A star does not keep its light forever. It gives it back. It dissolves so that its matter may become the seed of new star systems. Perhaps the same is true of the chapters of our own lives. There are seasons when we feel as though we are collapsing, when a job is lost, when a relationship closes, when a dream no longer fits who we are. We call it failure. But at a deeper level, it may be the moment when an old structure is dissolving so that new elements can form. Not every explosion is destruction. Some are the soul reorganizing itself. Think of a wedding ring, a small, quiet circle resting on someone's hand in this darkened room. Its gold once lay in the core of a dying star. It endured unimaginable pressure. It was born in a moment of chaos beyond comprehension. Then it drifted through space, became part of the earth, was mined, melted, shaped, and finally became a symbol of love, of commitment, of something enduring. A star's heart died so that two human beings could exchange a promise. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." The universe understands this well. Chaos is not the enemy of order. It is the precondition of creation. And if you are lying here tonight in the quiet of the dark, you too may carry within you parts that are dying, older versions of yourself, beliefs that no longer fit, dreams that have completed their role. Perhaps this is not a sign of loss, but of transformation. Out there in the vastness, the death of a star does not impoverish the universe. It enriches it. The heavy elements created are not meant to remain in darkness. They are scattered, mixed, becoming part of something new. Perhaps that is why when we look up at the sky, we do not see starry graveyards. We see light. And as you gently close your eyes, remember that the heartbeat in your chest carries iron forged in an explosion billions of years ago. The breath you just released holds carbon that once rested in the core of an ancient sun. You are evidence that death is not an endpoint. It is a movement within a larger orbit. The universe does not rush. It allows its cycles to unfold in their own rhythm. And tonight you too may allow yourself to rest within that rhythm. No need to fear what is ending. No need to force the light to burn forever. Sometimes the act of letting go is simply the way the universe prepares for a new form of being, like a star fading, so that one day it may become gold in a ring. When the stars explode and scatter their atoms into the void, the story already feels vast enough. And yet the universe does not stop there. From that stardust, life begins. Not loudly, not in a blaze like a supernova, but quietly. Within the primordial oceans of Earth, simple molecules collided. Hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. They joined, separated, and joined again. At some unknown moment, no one knows exactly when a structure became complex enough to remember itself. A molecule capable of copying. A chain of reactions able to sustain its own continuity. Assembly theory calls this the rise of the assembly index, the number of steps required to construct a structure. The more complex the structure, the more steps it demands, and the less likely it is to appear through pure chance alone. But the beauty of this idea does not lie in its formula. It lies in the quietness of the process. Life did not arrive as a miracle. It emerged as a series of small accumulations. One step, one bond, one repetition at a time. And here we encounter another concept, entropy. In physics, entropy is the tendency of systems to drift toward disorder. Complex structures tend to decay. Heat dissipates. Energy spreads outward. Over time, everything seems to move toward simpler states. So, why does life exist? Erwin Schrödinger once asked this question in What is Life? And he wrote, "Life feeds on negative entropy. Life does not deny entropy. It feeds upon it. It draws from flows of energy to preserve its internal order. A living cell constantly exchanges matter with its environment. It is not a closed system. It is an open structure continually renewing itself so that it does not dissolve. And perhaps this is true of us as well. We are not static beings. We are processes. William James, in The Principles of Psychology, wrote, "Consciousness then does not appear to itself chopped up in bits, it flows. Consciousness is not a stone. It is a current. Like life itself, awareness is a structure sustained amid the turbulence of neural signals of memory, of emotion." As you lie here in the quiet of the night, your body is gently resisting entropy. Your heart beats. Your lungs expand and soften. Cells repair and renew. No one commands them. There is no noise, only mathematics unfolding in the dark. Assembly theory suggests that life might be measured by the number of steps required to build it. Yet this does not make it cold. On the contrary, it makes it more wondrous. For every step of assembly is nature's quiet choice against dispersion. Nietzsche once wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps life itself is that dancing star, a structure arising within chaos. Not because chaos disappears, but because chaos is organized. In a human life, there are seasons of disorder, disorientation, change, collapse. Yet from another perspective, these may be new assemblies forming. A value shaped after failure. An understanding born from pain. A deeper capacity to love after loss. Life is not a static state of perfect order. It is the continuous act of keeping structure from dissolving. And there is something deeply comforting in that idea. You do not need to be perfect to be a stable system. You only need to keep sustaining your structure day by day, breath by breath. In the vast universe, entropy will win in the long run. Stars will fade. Galaxies will drift apart. But in this brief interval, life still appears. A leaf still opens toward the light. A thought still forms within your mind. A story is still being told in the night. Perhaps life truly is mathematics, but it is a gentle mathematics. An equation you do not need to solve, only to exist within. And as you soften your body, as your breathing slows, you are participating in the same process that has unfolded since the earliest days of Earth. A small structure, resisting chaos, not with an explosion, but with persistence. Amid the entropy of the universe, life whispers, and in that whisper you may rest. When we look up at the night sky, everything seems clear. Bright stars, faint bands of galaxies, pinpoints of light resting against an endless black. And yet, the strangest thing about the universe is what we cannot see. Astronomers discovered something unexpected. Galaxies rotate far faster than predicted. According to the equations of Newton and Einstein, stars at the outer edges of galaxies should move more slowly, just as planets farther from the sun orbit more slowly than Earth. But they do not slow down. They move swiftly, as though an invisible mass surrounds them, holding them in place. And so the idea of dark matter was born. A form of matter that emits no light, reflects no light, does not interact with electromagnetic forces, revealing itself only through gravity. Calculations suggest that about 85% of the universe's matter may belong to this unseen kind, which means that what we see, stars, planets, human beings, is only a small portion rising at the surface, like foam upon an ocean. Yet not everyone agrees with this hypothesis. Some scientists propose another possibility. Perhaps the laws of gravity we have trusted for centuries require revision. Modified Newtonian dynamics suggests that at extremely low accelerations, gravity may behave differently. Perhaps it is not dark matter holding galaxies together. Perhaps our understanding of gravity itself is incomplete. And here, science brushes against philosophy. Immanuel Kant once wrote in Critique of Pure Reason, "We can cognize of things only what we ourselves have put into them. We perceive only what our framework allows us to perceive. If the framework changes, reality appears to change with it." For centuries, Newton gave us a mechanical certain universe. Einstein curved space-time and opened a deeper layer. And now, dark matter, or Mund, asks us again, are we seeing the whole picture? What is remarkable is not that we lack an answer. What is remarkable is that we know we lack one. Karl Popper once said, "Our knowledge can only be finite, while our ignorance must necessarily be infinite." Conjectures and refutations. Perhaps the universe does not lead us astray. It reminds us of our limits. And this is not frightening. Think of your own life. There are invisible forces holding you in orbit, beliefs, memories, values, old wounds, silent promises. Others may see only your actions, your decisions, your outcomes. They do not see the full mass within that shapes your trajectory. Like a galaxy, there are parts of us that cannot be seen yet. They influence how we turn through the world. And sometimes, when things do not unfold according to the equations we expect, we may respond in two ways. Either assume there is some dark matter outside obstructing us, or ask whether our own equations require adjustment. Perhaps both are true in different measures. The universe does not provide clear answers. It offers only clues, the rotation curves of galaxies, telescope data, subtle irregularities in starlight. And from these human beings build hypotheses. There is something beautiful in that process, not because we understand everything, but because we continue to seek understanding. Albert Einstein once said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. The world as I see it." Beauty does not lie in absolute certainty. It lies in the ability to stand before the unknown and not turn away. As you lie here in the quiet dark, you too may carry your own dark matter, unanswered questions, unnamed parts of yourself. You do not need to resolve them tonight. Galaxies do not stop turning simply because we have not fully understood their gravity, and you do not need to pause your life because you do not yet understand yourself completely. Perhaps one day science will uncover the true nature of dark matter, or perhaps we will rewrite the equation of gravity. But tonight, the answer is not what matters. What matters is this feeling that the universe is larger than what we see, that reality runs deeper than what we touch. That uncertainty is not the enemy of peace. Even if the gravity we understand is incomplete, galaxies still hold their structure. And even if you do not yet comprehend all the invisible forces in your life, you are still being held by something perhaps not yet named that keeps your orbit from dissolving. Within the darkness there is order. Within the invisible there is support. And you may let yourself soften like a star, trusting in a gravity it has never seen. After journeying through the darkness of invisible matter, we do not return to brilliant light. Instead, we descend down beneath the ice. Europa. A small moon of Jupiter from afar looks like a cold white marble. Its surface is covered with fractures, veined patterns like the network of arteries on a sleeping organism. The temperature there is cold enough to freeze nearly everything. But beneath the ice, tens of kilometers thick, there is an ocean, not warmed by sunlight. No sunrise, no sunset. That ocean exists because of tidal heating, the immense gravity of Jupiter constantly stretching and compressing Europa, creating internal friction, generating heat, keeping the water from freezing solid. Pressure, flexing, friction, not light, but inner motion. Recently, the James Webb Space Telescope detected CO2 on Europa's surface, and analyses suggest that this molecule may have originated from the hidden ocean below, pushed upward through icy cracks. Carbon dioxide, a molecule familiar to life on Earth. Yet what is remarkable is not the CO2 itself. It is where it comes from the dark. Henry David Thoreau once wrote in Walden, "Heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads." Perhaps life is like that. It does not exist only where there is light. We grow up imagining that life requires sunlight. Plants need photosynthesis. Creatures need mild temperatures. Yet at the bottom of Earth's oceans, where light never reaches around hydrothermal vents, life still thrives, drawing from chemical energy rather than solar energy. No sun required, only energy. Europa poses a gentle question. If life can exist within the cold darkness of a subsurface ocean, are we underestimating life's capacity to adapt? And more broadly, are we underestimating ourselves? There are phases in life that resemble a thick sheet of ice. Everything seems frozen. The surface appears cold and still, but beneath it, there may still be an ocean. A source of warmth generated not from outside, but from the pressure of experience itself. Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order." Collected Works, Volume 7. Europa is a quiet testament to that. From a distance, it looks like a chaos of fractures, but within there may be a structure capable of nurturing life. Not loud life, not lush forests, but perhaps small microorganisms quietly existing in dark water. And this offers a different kind of hope from the ones we are used to. Hope is not a sudden light dispelling darkness. Hope is knowing that even without light, energy remains. Tidal heating, the continuous stretching and compressing, keeps Europa warm. Perhaps within us there are invisible gravitational forces like this as well. Relationships, responsibilities, memories. They stretch us, compress us, create friction. And from that friction, heat is born. Not all pressure destroys. Some pressure keeps the ocean within us from freezing. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Jupiter's pull, what might seem like a threat to Europa, is precisely what allows it to hold liquid water. The resistances in our own lives may also be sources of inner energy, seen from another angle. James Webb did not see the ocean directly. It saw only traces CO2 on the surface. We are like that too. We rarely see the full depth of another human being. We see only signs, a sentence, a glance, a silence. But beneath the ice, there may be an ocean never yet touched. There is something profoundly gentle in the idea that life does not require light to begin. Perhaps in your darkest seasons, you are still sustaining an ocean within yourself. Perhaps you do not feel the light, but the heat remains. Life does not require perfection. It requires only sufficient conditions. And the universe has shown again and again that sufficient can appear in the least expected places. Europa has no blue sky, but it has water. No direct sunlight, but it has warmth. No forests, but it has carbon. And tonight, as you lie in this soft darkness, perhaps you too do not need dazzling light in order to continue existing. Only a little warmth from within. A steady heartbeat. A quiet current flowing. Beneath the ice of weary days, there is still an ocean. And within that ocean, life waits. There are things we assume to be self-evident simply because we have seen them so many times. Neptune, the 8th planet from the Sun, has long been remembered as a deep blue world, almost luminous against the dark. When Voyager 2 flew past in 1989, the images sent back to Earth revealed a powerful cobalt hue, intense and cold. That image settled into textbooks, into documentaries, into our collective imagination. But decades later, when scientists revisited the original data, they discovered something intriguing. The initial color had been enhanced. The contrast had been adjusted to highlight atmospheric features. Neptune is not quite so dark. It is blue, but softer, gentler. The universe did not change its color. Only the way we processed its light changed. There is something deeply human in this story. We never see raw reality. Light enters the eye. Signals travel along nerves. The brain interprets. Memory adds tone. Belief shapes meaning. Immanuel Kant wrote in Critique of Pure Reason, thoughts without content are empty, intuitions without concepts are blind. We do not see only with our eyes, we see with our concepts. Neptune did not deceive us. We chose a way of seeing that fit the technology and aesthetics of that moment. And this story does not end with astronomy. Think of the way we see other people. A fleeting glance may be interpreted as coldness or simply as fatigue. A silence may be read as distance or merely as reflection. We assign color to the world, just as Voyager increased Neptune's saturation. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote in Studies in Pessimism, we see not things as they are, but as we are. Perhaps this is true not only in philosophy, but in every relationship. The universe is not mistaken, but our perception may carry the scratches of past experience. Neptune did not become less beautiful when its color was recalibrated. It simply became more real. There is something gentle in accepting that we may have seen incorrectly, not because we were weak, but because perception is always a process still unfolding. Just as light passing through an atmosphere is altered, every image is shaped by its environment, in our minds as well. Memory, belief, fear, hope, all are color filters. When you think about the past, you may be viewing it with the saturation of your present emotions. A memory may appear more vivid than it truly was. A failure may seem darker than it ever needed to be. But like Neptune, reality does not need to be intense in order to matter. It only needs to be present. Ludwig Wittgenstein wrote in Philosophical Investigations, "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." If language and concepts shape our world, then each time we alter the way we describe something, the world itself shifts. Not because the planet changed its color, but because our lens shifted its angle. Perhaps this is why science continually returns to the original data. It re-examines the images. It adjusts. It accepts the possibility that its understanding was incomplete. This does not weaken science. It makes science more mature. And perhaps the same is true of us. When we revisit an old experience with a new perspective, we are not denying the past. We are simply adjusting the contrast. Neptune does not lose its beauty when its blue softens. It becomes less dramatic. And perhaps we do not need excessive drama in order to exist. In this quiet night, as the light dims and everything grows softer, you may allow yourself to see the world without increasing the saturation. No need to darken sorrow. No need to sharpen anxiety. No need to make hope blindingly bright. Just see. The universe is not wrong. It is simply being interpreted. And if something in your life once carried a color too dark, perhaps one day when the data is reviewed, when emotion has settled, you will see it more gently. Not because the memory changed, but because you changed. Neptune continues its orbit around the Sun, whether its color is enhanced or softened, and so do you. No matter how many times the way you see yourself shifts, you are still existing within your own orbit. Gently, without needing to blaze. Simply true. And within that truth, there is a shade of blue soft enough for you to close your eyes and rest. There was a moment in the history of science when humanity realized that Earth was not at the center. Another moment when we understood that our galaxy was not particularly special. And now another question arises. What if the universe itself is not entirely random? Some analyses of data from the James Webb Space Telescope have suggested that in the most distant regions of space, there may exist a subtle asymmetry in the rotational direction of galaxies. If this is confirmed, and science is proceeding with careful caution, it would raise a profound question. Does the universe as a whole have a preferred direction of spin? Does it have an axis? And if the universe rotates, what does it rotate around? This idea is not new. For decades, some physicists have speculated that what we call the Big Bang may not have been an absolute beginning, but a process unfolding within a larger structure. Black hole cosmology proposes that when a black hole forms within a universe, it may generate a new region of space-time, a child universe within it, which would mean our universe could exist inside a black hole, belonging to another reality. And the black holes within our own universe might in turn be the origins of further universes. A nested sequence. Universes within universes. Like endless Matryoshka dolls. Blaise Pascal once wrote in Pensées, "The eternal silence of these infinite spaces frightens me, but perhaps what astonishes is not the silence, it is the structure. If reality can be nested in this way, then what we call the whole may itself be only a part." Yet instead of inspiring fear, this idea may offer a different feeling. Imagine a child living in a large room. For the child, that room is the entire world. It does not know that the room is within a house, the house within a city, the city upon a planet. The limits of perception are not failure. They are simply a beginning. Immanuel Kant reminded us that we never fully access the thing in itself. We encounter only phenomena what appears to us. Perhaps the universe is like that. What we measure, calculate, simulate may be only the surface of a deeper architecture. And if the universe can rotate, if it can reside within something larger, then the question is no longer, where is the center? The question becomes, what structure do we belong to? Albert Einstein once wrote, a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. Letter to Robert S. Marcus, 1950. If we are part of a whole, and that whole is itself part of something greater, then our limit is not a wall. It is a membrane, light, thin, but not absolute. In personal life, we often believe ourselves to be the center of the story. Gradually, we realize we are part of a family, a society, a history, chains of causes stretching far beyond our immediate awareness. And perhaps we are also part of structures our present minds cannot yet imagine. If the universe rotates, it does not diminish its beauty. If it resides within another universe, it does not become smaller. It becomes humbler. And there is something deeply healing in that humility. You do not need to be the center to have meaning. You only need to be a part of the structure that is unfolding, like a cell in a body, like a star in a galaxy, like a galaxy in a universe. And if our universe truly lies within a greater reality, perhaps your existence too is held within a story wider than what you can see today. Not to make you small, but to make you connected. Amid the nested layers of reality, amid rotations that may occur at scales beyond imagination, one thing remains unchanged. You are here, breathing, thinking, feeling. Perhaps we are living inside something larger, but that does not make this moment less real. On the contrary, it makes it more precious, like a small pattern reflecting the architecture of the whole. If the universe rotates, it does so very slowly, very gently, without noise, and you too may allow yourself to turn more slowly like that. No need to comprehend the entire structure surrounding you, only to trust that you belong to a deeper order, and within that gentle trust, you may close your eyes and drift into the orbit of sleep. After imagining that the universe itself might rotate, that it might exist within a structure greater still, perhaps it is time to return to a simpler question. How did everything begin? Since childhood, many of us were told that the Big Bang was an explosion, a tiny dense point that burst outward into empty space. But in truth, there was no empty space waiting beforehand. The Big Bang was not an explosion in space. It was the expansion of space itself. No center, no edge. Every point expanding away from every other point. Like dots of ink on the surface of a balloon being inflated, no dot is the center of the surface. From the perspective of each one, all the others are moving away. The universe did not expand from a point into space. It expanded with space. This may sound abstract, yet there is something gentle within it. If there is no center, then no place is abandoned. The cosmic microwave background is one of the most beautiful pieces of evidence for this story. It is the faint light left over from when the universe was only about 380,000 years old, when the first atoms formed and light could finally travel freely. When telescopes look deep into space, they are also looking back in time. And in every direction, wherever we point our instruments, we encounter the same background signal, almost uniform, like a very distant echo, very soft, yet present everywhere. T.S. Eliot wrote in 4 quartets, "In my beginning is my end." Perhaps within the beginning of the universe lay the seeds of every ending, and within every ending the trace of a new beginning. But pause for a moment at that first instant, not to calculate energy densities, not to debate cosmic inflation, but to feel the idea that everything was once closer together. All the galaxies, all the stars, all the atoms that would one day become you and me were once close. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. Though he did not know the Big Bang as we do, the intuition is strikingly similar. A unified whole. If the universe has no center, then meaning is not locked at a single coordinate. You do not need to stand at the center of everything to have value. There is no absolute center at all. The universe does not privilege any location. Everywhere is the beginning of its own story. Perhaps this is true in personal life as well. We often search for a clear starting point, a defining moment that explains who we are. But life rarely has a single center. It expands in many directions. Relationships, decisions, mistakes, hopes, all unfolding outward, no single point containing the whole meaning. The cosmic microwave background reminds us that the past does not disappear. It leaves traces faint but measurable. In the mind, it is similar. Early experiences, distant memories, even when blurred, form the background radiation of present awareness. Not loud, not overwhelming, but present. You may not recall every moment that shaped you, but the gentle background of your past is still there, surrounding steady. Stephen Hawking once said, "We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star, but we can understand the universe." The universe in a nutshell. Perhaps the wonder is not that we are small, but that we can look back toward our own origin. And tonight, as you lie in this darkened room as the noise fades, you may feel a simple truth. You belong to a story that began billions of years ago. No fixed center, no privileged point, only expansion slow and steady. The universe did not explode and end. It opened. And so do you. You do not need to rediscover a perfect beginning. You only need to continue expanding in awareness and understanding in the capacity to let go. The Big Bang was not a thunderous blast. It was a silent unfolding. And in that silence, everything began. Just as now, when you gently close your eyes and allow consciousness to open softly, without center, without edge, only a presence widening until you drift into sleep like a small living part of that endless expansion. If everything once began together in a single searing moment of expansion, not everything continued in the same way. Imagine Mars, not the dry red desert we see today, but an ancient world with flowing rivers, lakes gathered in stone basins, perhaps even oceans stretching across its surface. Rovers have found eroded valleys, sedimentary layers, minerals that form only in the presence of water. There was a time when water flowed on Mars, but then its magnetic field weakened. Its atmosphere was stripped away by the solar wind. The water evaporated or froze beneath the ground. The planet grew cold. Venus tells a similar story, but in the opposite direction. Evidence suggests it may once have held liquid water before a runaway greenhouse effect transformed it into a world with surface temperatures hot enough to melt lead. Two planets, two diverging paths, both beginning with conditions not so different from Earth's. And now one is a frozen desert, the other a vast furnace. There is something deeply quiet in the idea of almost living worlds, not because they failed in a moral sense, but because they did not sustain the delicate balance required for enduring life. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. But what happens when the struggle is not enough? Not every planet receives a second chance. Not every system finds equilibrium. Earth so far has maintained a fragile balance between temperature, atmosphere, magnetic field, and distance from the sun. Not too hot, not too cold, not too near, not too far. Yet this was never guaranteed." Stephen Hawking warned of the fragility of human civilization, reminding us that we are not immune to cosmic change. And when we look at Mars or Venus, we see alternate versions of possibility. Perhaps there were once rains there, perhaps clouds, perhaps conditions closer to life than we imagine. And then everything shifted. But instead of fear, perhaps what we should feel is gratitude. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to throw away, if Earth is indeed one of the few worlds to sustain life." Then every moment we live upon it is part of an extraordinarily delicate chain of probability. Mars and Venus are not tragic failures. They are reminders that balance is fragile, and fragile does not mean weak. It means precious. In personal life, too, there are paths we once could have taken, choices, possibilities, alternate versions of ourselves. Some of them never became real. Our own almost living worlds. A relationship that almost formed. A dream almost pursued. An opportunity almost seized. Yet not every potential must be realized to have meaning. Mars does not need to become Earth in order to tell an important story. Venus does not need to turn green to remind us of balance. They exist as possibilities that turned in another direction. And in that existence, there is a quiet beauty. Carl Sagan once said, "Somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known." Perhaps the incredible lies not only where life flourishes, but also where it almost did. And a gentle question arises. Is Earth simply one of the few survivors, perhaps? Perhaps not. But tonight, as you lie in this soft darkness, you are living on a planet that has maintained balance for billions of years. Not perfect, not immutable, but enough. Enough for oceans not to freeze entirely. Enough for air not to ignite. Enough for trees to rise. Enough for you to breathe. Other worlds followed their own paths. They are no longer homes for life as we know it. Yet their existence makes the fragility of our own home more luminous. And perhaps instead of anxiety, we may feel gratitude. Gratitude that among countless possibilities, one chain of conditions held steady long enough for you to open your eyes and then close them again. Among worlds that almost lived, Earth still breathes. And within that breathing, you may release comparison, regret, and what-ifs. Because in this moment, you are standing or lying upon a planet that has survived innumerable chances of failure. One of the few survivors. And for tonight, that is enough. If Earth is one of the few worlds that have survived, then the next question arises almost naturally. Can we carry life farther, not by starships racing at the speed of light as in science fiction films, but by vast, patient structures drifting through space like purposeful dust? Generation ships. Vessels not built for a short journey, not for a single lifetime. They are designed to operate for hundreds, even thousands of years. Those who depart will never see the destination. Their descendants, generations born and raised aboard, will be the ones to step onto a distant planet. There is something profoundly human in this idea. It is not conquest. It is continuation. A generation ship requires more than engines. It requires a closed ecosystem, water recycled, air-balanced plants providing oxygen and food. Everything must function like a miniature planet. No external supply lines, no instant repairs. Only a delicate balance of cycles. Here again, mathematics appears. Scientists use Monte Carlo simulations to estimate the probability of maintaining genetic diversity across generations to avoid inbreeding to ensure the population remains large and varied enough to endure. But behind those probability models lies a quieter question. Human beings possess the patience to live within a journey that has no personal ending. Proxima Centauri. The nearest known exoplanet beyond our solar system lies just over 4 light-years away. Just sounds near. Yet at the speeds of our current spacecraft, the journey would take tens of thousands of years. A generation ship does not merely cross space, it crosses time. Soren Kierkegaard wrote in Either/or Life. Can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Those born aboard such a vessel would understand this in a unique way. Earth would not be a living memory for them, only a story retold. They would live forward yet understand backward through archives, through collective memory, through inherited narrative. Perhaps we are already living on such a ship, Earth drifting through space, carrying its fragile ecosystem with it. A generation ship teaches something: slow patience, not the patience of days, not of years, but of centuries. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Meditations. The inhabitants of a generation ship would not control the distance between stars. They could not shorten the voyage, but they could shape how they live within it. Perhaps they would plant trees, teach children, tell stories of ancient skies. They would not live merely to arrive. They would live to sustain life. And perhaps this mirrors our own existence. We often believe we must reach something, a defined destination, a measurable achievement. But life may resemble a generation ship more than a short flight. We continue what those before us began. We prepare for those who come after. We live within a chain longer than ourselves. Albert Einstein once remarked, "A person who has not made his great contribution to science before the age of 30 will never do so." History has shown that this is not entirely true. Many great contributions emerge from long perseverance. Patience often matters more than speed. A generation ship does not demand explosive brilliance. It demands stability. A closed ecosystem does not survive through isolated heroic acts. It survives through repetition, breathing, cultivating, recycling, caring. There is something deeply comforting in the idea that the future does not need to arrive quickly. Proxima Centauri. B will remain where it is, whether we reach it or not. And perhaps in your own life, there are Proxima's distant goals, long-held dreams. You may not touch them all, yet the journey toward them still holds meaning. A generation ship does not live in haste. It lives in the orbit of time. And tonight, as you lie in this quiet, you may not need to accelerate. No need to arrive immediately. No need to complete everything within one lifetime. Simply sustain the ecosystem within you. Keep the mind balanced, the breath steady, the values continuing. Like a vast vessel drifting through the darkness between stars, not hurried, not afraid, only patient. And within that patience, there is a deep peace. A peace gentle enough for you to let yourself drift like a generation, trusting that the voyage continues, even while you sleep. After all that we have journeyed through exploding stars, oceans hidden beneath ice, generation ships drifting patiently between suns, one question remains. A question so simple it is almost childlike. If the universe is so vast, where is everyone? In 1950, physicist Enrico Fermi, during an ordinary lunch, posed that very question. With billions of stars in our galaxy and billions of galaxies beyond, the probability of intelligent life does not seem small. So why does the sky remain silent? No clear signals, no visiting probes, no undeniable evidence, only an enduring stillness. One possibility is the great filter, some barrier that prevents most civilizations from advancing far enough to achieve interstellar communication. Perhaps single-celled life arises easily, but complex life is rare. Or perhaps many civilizations destroy themselves before they can spread. The idea can send a chill through us, yet it can also awaken us. Another possibility is the zoo hypothesis that we are being observed but not interfered with like animals in a preserve. Not because we are unimportant, but because their rule is non-intervention. And then there are fishbowl worlds, civilizations locked beneath deep oceans under thick ice, or on planets with gravity too strong to escape. Intelligent beings may evolve there, yet never see a star-filled sky. They would not know what lies beyond. Perhaps silence does not mean emptiness. Perhaps it means distance. Blaise Pascal wrote in Pensée, "The eternal silence of these infinite spaces frightens me." Yet perhaps what matters is not the fear, but how we respond to the silence. In personal life, silence is often misunderstood. When someone does not reply, we assume indifference. When a prayer goes unanswered, we assume it was unheard. But silence is not always denial. Perhaps it is a distance too vast for sound to cross. Perhaps it is a rule not yet understood. Or perhaps it is a space in which we are meant to grow. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps the universe has given us silence so that we must find meaning ourselves. If the sky were filled with obvious signals, perhaps humanity would never question, never reflect, never look deeply inward. Silence compels us to listen. Perhaps the great filter does not lie behind us in evolutionary history, but ahead of us the ability to sustain intelligence without self-destruction. The ability to endure long enough to become a patient civilization. And if so, then silence is not a sentence. It is an invitation to live more responsibly, to think more deeply, to care for this fragile planet a little longer. Carl Sagan once said, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." Cosmos. If we are the universe becoming aware of itself, perhaps silence is not the absence of intelligence. Perhaps we are among the first voices. And other civilizations, if they exist, may be asking the same question, gazing up at their own skies, waiting for a signal. But tonight, as you lie in this darkness, silence does not need to frighten you. It can be a foundation. In silence, you hear your heartbeat. In silence, you feel your breath. The universe may not answer immediately, but it has given you the capacity to ask. And sometimes that capacity is itself the answer. What does silence mean? Perhaps it means we are still in the early chapters of the story. Perhaps it means the distances are too vast for voices to cross. Or perhaps it means we must learn to listen before we are heard. Amid the stillness of infinite space, one thing is not silent: your consciousness. And as you gently close your eyes, that silence is no longer emptiness. It becomes a quiet ocean where you may let yourself drift without needing signals from the stars, only the presence of your own being. After the silence of the stars, after the question of civilizations that do not answer, perhaps we need something more tangible. Not an abstract hypothesis, but a place. Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, nearly 1.5 billion kilometers away, is a strange world. Its surface temperature is so cold that methane exists as liquid, forming lakes and seas. A thick nitrogen atmosphere, hazy and opaque, veils the landscape in a muted orange glow. No liquid water like Earth's, no blue sky. Yet there is complex chemistry, organic molecules, long carbon chains, reactions that may be precursors to life, not as we know it, but perhaps as another version. And so NASA prepares to send Dragonfly, a small rotor craft that will land on Titan, flying from site to site, searching for chemical traces of prebiotic processes. Not to conquer, but to listen. There is something profoundly beautiful in the image of humanity, after centuries of looking up at the sky, finally sending a dragonfly to a distant world to touch its surface lightly. Martin Heidegger wrote in Being and Time of Being in the World, "We do not stand outside the universe to observe it. We are within it." And every mission like Dragonfly is a way of expanding the scope of that within. Titan does not promise lush life. It lies at the edge of habitability. And it is precisely at the edge that creativity unfolds. On Earth, life has adapted to environments once thought impossible: deep ocean trenches, hydrothermal vents, permafrost. Titan reminds us that the definition of habitable is not fixed. It depends on conditions, on chemistry, on time. Yet while we dream of Titan, something else is happening nearby. Saturn's rings, among the most beautiful structures in our solar system, are gradually disappearing. Studies suggest that the icy particles composing the rings are slowly falling into the planet due to gravity and electromagnetic interactions. One day, if observers still gaze at Saturn, they may no longer see those radiant bands. What once appeared eternal is only a long moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "All is ephemeral, both memory and the object of memory." Saturn's rings, Titan's methane lakes, even Earth itself all move within the orbit of impermanence. But impermanence does not diminish value. It heightens it. A structure that lasts forever would not carry the urgency of beauty. It is precisely because the rings are fading that they feel precious. Perhaps life is like this. We live at the edge of balance between heat and cold, order and chaos, existence and dissolution. And it is at that edge that meaning arises. Titan exists at the edge of habitability. Saturn's rings exist at the edge of endurance. And you may be standing at the edge of a phase in your own life. An old structure shifting. a familiar circle thinning, a new world waiting to be explored. Dragonfly will not arrive on Titan to declare victory. It will gather data, observe, seek to understand. Perhaps we too can approach change in this way, not with fear of loss, but with gentle curiosity. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra," and those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Perhaps Titan and Saturn's rings are dancing to their own rhythm, slower than ours, yet no less alive. The impermanence of all structures is not merely a warning. It is a reminder that change is part of being. Nothing stands completely still. Nothing remains entirely unchanged. Yet within this flow, one thing persists: your capacity to perceive, to feel, to contemplate. Titan will continue orbiting Saturn for billions of years. The rings will fade. Dragonfly will descend and rise through orange skies. And you, in this moment, lie upon a planet still green, still breathing. The edge of habitability is not a final boundary. It is where questions begin. And tonight, you do not need to answer them all. Simply feel the fragility of every structure, not as something frightening, but as a gentle reminder that every moment carries value. Like rings slowly vanishing, like Titan waiting to be touched. And within that waiting, you may let yourself drift softly at the edge of sleep, where all structures dissolve into quiet peace. After Titan, after the fading rings, we return to something else. Not a planet, not a moon, but a reaction. Nuclear fusion. The fusion reaction unfolding in the core of the sun at this very moment. Hydrogen nuclei merging into helium, releasing immense energy. The light you see each morning, the warmth on your skin, the harvests, the oceans that do not freeze, all arise from that reaction. The strange thing is, it is not magic. It is physics. And for decades, humanity has tried to recreate it on Earth. Not to build weapons, but to generate a clean, stable, nearly limitless source of energy. In every liter of seawater, there is a small amount of deuterium, an isotope of hydrogen. Small, quiet. Yet if harnessed correctly, it could release more energy than coal or oil ever could. This thought need not excite us. It is enough to make us contemplative. Albert Einstein wrote in a letter in 1939, "The release of atomic power has changed everything except our way of thinking." Perhaps fusion is the same. It may transform how we produce energy, how we travel. But if our thinking does not change, it becomes only a more powerful tool in the hands of old fears. From fusion emerges another idea near light speed travel. Not exceeding the speed of light for special relativity tells us that is impossible, but approaching it. When a ship moves at a significant fraction of light speed, time on board passes more slowly than on Earth. A journey that lasts decades for those at home might feel like only years for those traveling. Time is no longer absolute, distance no longer fixed. Yet instead of excitement, we might ask, if we can go faster, do we truly wish to? There is something deeply human in the desire to shorten distance, to shorten waiting, to shorten sorrow, to shorten the journey itself. But some things form only in slowness. Fusion, the reaction in stellar cores, occurs under immense pressure over millions of years. The sunlight we receive today took hundreds of thousands of years to escape the sun's core. Even light requires patience. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Perhaps limits like the speed of light are not barriers meant to frustrate us, but rhythms meant to teach us how to move. If one day we build a fusion engine powerful enough to send a ship to Proxima Centauri b within a few decades, what will be aboard that ship? Only metal and fuel. Or also memory, culture, stories, poems, technology may carry the body far. But meaning is what we must carry within. Carl Jung wrote in Modern Man, In Search of a Soul, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." A near light-speed vessel without meaning is merely a fast object. But a journey that is understood, accepted, fully lived, even if slow, possesses a depth no velocity can surpass. What does fusion teach us? that in the heart of the universe, tiny particles combine to create light, not through chaotic explosion, but through a delicate balance between attraction and repulsion. Perhaps humanity is similar. We create light only when we balance ambition with humility. Deuterium rests in the ocean quiet, unassuming. It does not ignite itself. It waits for the right conditions. Perhaps our greatest capacities are the same. They do not need to be activated in haste. They require ripening. Near light speed is not the ultimate goal. Understanding where we are going is. And tonight, as you lie here, you need not reach any velocity at all. No need to compress time. No need to conquer distance. Perhaps this very slowness, the steady breath, the quiet room is its own small fusion. Disparate thoughts merging, producing a gentle light within the mind. Not dazzling, just warm enough. The dream of light-speed travel need not thrill us. It can remain as a reminder humanity always moves forward. But moving forward does not always mean running. Sometimes it means understanding more deeply, traveling farther inward. And in that inner space where relativity imposes no limit, you may drift softly without acceleration, without overcoming any barrier. Simply being here, between a very distant light and a very near sleep. Until now, physics has told us a rather coherent story. 4 fundamental forces govern everything. Gravity holds planets in orbit. Electromagnetism gives rise to light chemistry and the signals of our nerves. The strong force binds atomic nuclei so they do not fall apart. The weak force allows decay and transformation. 4 invisible threads woven together into the fabric of the universe. It seems complete, and yet galaxies began drifting apart faster than expected, not merely expanding, but accelerating in their expansion. Something is pushing the universe away from itself. Dark energy. We do not see it. We do not touch it. Yet the equations suggest it makes up nearly 70% of the universe's total energy. Most of reality is something we do not understand. There is a deep humility in this realization. Isaac Newton once said, "What we know is a drop, what we don't know is an ocean." We have grown accustomed to believing that science will gradually fill every gap. But dark energy is not a small gap. It is an ocean surrounding the island of our knowledge. And if there is dark energy, could there also be a 5th force? For decades, physicists have searched for signs of an additional interaction, something that might explain discrepancies in certain experiments or subtle anomalies in celestial motion. So far, no definitive evidence. And yet, the search continues, as if humanity senses that something lies behind the curtain. Then there is string theory, a bold proposal suggesting that fundamental particles are not points, but tiny, vibrating strings in space. And for these strings to exist consistently, the universe may require more than 3 spatial dimensions, perhaps 10 or 11. These additional dimensions do not stretch outward like length or width. They curl inward at microscopic scales too small for us to perceive, a reality layered more deeply than we imagine. Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self, "The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it." Perhaps these hidden dimensions are not only mathematics. Perhaps they are metaphors for unseen layers within our own consciousness, present yet not directly visible. And here, this chapter becomes a pause. Not because information has ended, but because we stand at the edge of understanding. Reality may not be complete, yet that does not make it less real. It makes it richer. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." When we contemplate dark energy, the possibility of a 5th force dimensions curled into the structure of space, we are not only looking into the universe, we are looking into our own limits. Limits are not meant to frighten us. They are where we encounter humility. Throughout history, whenever humanity believed it understood almost everything, something new emerged. We once thought Earth was the center. Then we learned it was a small planet. We once thought our galaxy was the entire universe. Then we saw billions more. Now we think 4 forces may suffice. But perhaps the story is not finished. There is something comforting in reality being unfinished. For if everything were complete, if every question had a final answer, the journey would end. But the universe does not seem inclined toward conclusion. It opens further questions, deeper layers, regions still unlit, and you tonight are the same. Perhaps you are not complete, not fully understood, not yet aware of all the forces operating within you, but that does not mean you are lacking. It means you are alive. Dark energy pushes galaxies apart silently without noise. No one hears it. Yet it works. Perhaps within you there is a similar force, a quiet momentum guiding you forward even when you do not notice. Not the force of ambition, not the force of fear, but the force of becoming. If reality itself is unfinished, then your life is not closed either, and that allows you to rest. You do not need to understand the entire universe in order to exist within it. You do not need to decode dark energy to feel the warmth of the night. Perhaps the ultimate mystery is not a new force, but the acceptance that some things remain unknown. And within that unknowing, there is space for peace. Like dimensions curled within the structure of reality, sleep is another dimension unseen, yet real. Tonight, you may set the questions down. The universe will continue expanding. The forces will continue operating, the strings will continue vibrating, and you may let yourself drift gently within a reality that is not complete yet wide enough to hold you in quiet embrace. And now, after the journey has passed, exploding stars, oceans hidden beneath ice forces not yet found, and dimensions not yet unfolded, the voice may grow slower. Not to conclude, not to prove anything, only to set things down. You do not need to understand it all. The universe does not require you to grasp its entire structure in order to exist within it. At this very moment, whether you think about dark energy or not, the universe continues to expand. Galaxies turn in their quiet orbits. Supermassive black holes at their centers release jets of matter like breaths stretched across millions of years. Everything continues. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." Perhaps peace does not lie in understanding the universe completely, but in returning to that inner place. You do not need to keep pace with the speed of light. You do not need to decode a fifth force. You do not need to solve the Fermi Paradox. The universe does not depend on your worry in order to function. Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Cosmos. And perhaps tonight the way the universe knows itself is not through equations, but through quiet, through a human being lying in the night, through a breath slowing, through awareness softening. Galaxies are not in haste. Black holes do not panic. Light takes millions of years to arrive, and you may move just as slowly. If there is one thing to carry from this entire journey, it is not a concept, not a theory. It is this feeling that within a vast, unfinished, mysterious reality, you still have a place. Not at the center, not at the edge, simply here. The universe continues to unfold. Stars continue to burn. Structures continue to form and dissolve. And you may set the questions down. No need to understand everything. No need to hold on to every idea. Just let yourself drift gently like a particle of dust, aware that it belongs to the sky. And within that belonging, sleep may come not as an ending, but as a very natural part of the endless motion.